This is the Tabernacle Podcast with me, John Vermilia, and special guests today. First, we have Mrs. Tim Burgess, also known as Heidi.
Thank you, John.
How are you? Thanks for being with us.
Yeah.
You have the calmest voice
Oh, thank you.
on the podcast. It's very, it's okay now. It's all good.
Thanks. Jesus helps with that.
Oh, yeah, he does.
Yes.
Yeah. And our VIP guest, Mrs. Gail Heaven King.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You're our guest today, and we're so excited to have you here today. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. This has been on my bucket list, so I'm pretty excited.
Which was pretty cool. We were talking before the podcast recording began. You said it was a bucket list, and there was a part of me that was like, really? And maybe it's because I kind of take it for granted and I don't see the people that listen to the podcast or whatever. But you had said that you've been a listener and you're like, hey, I got a story to tell. But in humility, you never just walked up and said, I got a story to tell.
Exactly.
And,
Exactly.
But that's cool. Thanks for being with us. So, Gail, you've been a part of our church, a beloved member of our church,
Thank you.
a super encouraging person. And we're going to get right after it. You have right now ravaging through your body cancer.
Yep.
And just to give a little context for our viewers right now, at what stage are you in with cancer? I know it began as ovarian cancer, but then it's spread. And like as of today, what is the prognosis?
My prognosis was they gave me a couple months to live about 3 weeks ago. So in 2019 is when I was first diagnosed with my ovarian cancer. And my mom had come up, who lives in Hesperia, and took me to the hospital because I couldn't breathe, which makes no sense. But they then found in my left fallopian tube a mass. And while we were in the hospital, we both looked at each other and said, "Are you nervous?"
Mm.
And I said, "Nope." I said, "Are you nervous?" She said, "Nope." And I would never, after that moment, cried except to tell my daughter Hannah over the phone that I had cancer. So since 2019, which is 5 years ago, I've been battling off and on different spots in my belly and going through chemo. About a month ago, going in for my chemo treatment, they said, well, the chemo's not working. And I'm like, oh, okay. What's our next step? You know, is there a different chemo? Is there something else that we can do? And they were looking at me like, nope, there's nothing more that we can do. So I was like, okay, do I go home and die?
Mm-hmm.
Do I have a time limit? No. So at that point, it was kind of, the ball was dropped into my court. And they wouldn't even take scans of my belly to see where the cancer was. So they got a hold of palliative care, which is kind of before hospice. And they found, or I went to the hospital because I knew I needed to know what my blood levels, my sugar levels, my dehydration, that type of thing. And nobody was doing anything. So when I got to the hospital, they took scans. The palliative doctor that I was with, she took everything from 2019 until that day. And she told me, she said she went into every detail of my case. And she's the one that told us something. Oh, I was dehydrated. My magnesium had dropped to nothing. And the scans, I had cancer all over my intestines now. And she gave us some answers. My daughter was there with me, and she said, a time limit would probably be about 2 months. We cried, but it was like relief that you finally heard something that you knew.
Mhm.
You could have something tangible to think about.
Mhm.
So at that point from the hospital, I did get to go home, palliative care and hospice.
Gotcha.
So right now I'm on hospice. I'm home. I am getting weaker by the day. I can tell that. But other than that, God just puts these people in my path constantly, just constantly.
Well, one of the reasons we wanted to have you here, and thanks for sharing that. You've been real blunt and honest and open, and our church, our staff, I know women you've been in your group with, we've all been praying for you.
Oh, I know it.
Mhm.
And you'd be gone for a while from church doing the chemo stuff, and then, hey, I'm back. And,
Yes.
and there's something about you that is so attractive, and it's the joy
Mhm.
and the faith and the hope that blows people away. And so, we were talking again that when you heard that, hey, there was a thought, hey, would Gail want to come on the podcast and just record her story? And the fact that you said yes, I think this is going to be an amazing gift. So,
yes.
again, thank you for spending some of the time, and you don't know how much time.
No.
My wife, who visited you a couple of days ago, said that this woman that we're sitting across from, with that big smile, was going, I get to see Jesus real soon, sooner than you. And Darcy was deeply, deeply impacted by that. So, we're hoping that this story can bring a lot of hope and can teach the rest of us. So, you mentioned Hesperia.
Yes.
I've never heard of Hesperia until I was on your Facebook page and it said you're from Hesperia, and then you said it again.
Uh-huh.
Is that where you were born and raised? Were you originally from Hesperia?
I'm originally from Grand Rapids. My family. I'll kind of start with that. My mom and dad, my grandparents, all went to church at in Cascade, Grand Rapids area, and so that's where we started. Then we moved up to Hesperia, where my grandparents had property and a farm, and it's an hour and 15 minutes just south of here.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And so I've had all these people in my life: my grandparents, my mom and dad, and my brothers and sister. And so I'm the oldest. I have two brothers, Doug and Jerry, and my sister Joy. And we all grew up in a small town. I think smaller, about the size of Buckley, maybe just a little bigger.
Okay. Yeah.
So, growing up in small town America, high school marching band, and all the sports, football,
What did you play in the marching band?
trombone.
I played the trombone.
No
We're gonna
way.
fist. No. We're gonna fist bump.
Okay.
That's the tradition. Yeah, I played the trombone, but only a year and a half. I wasn't as good as you. I couldn't walk and play trombone, but I knew how to do the little spit thing. The little.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
gross. It's gross.
Yeah.
Yeah. My father played the trombone. Yeah.
That's great.
So small town band,
Small
the whole
town.
deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Hesperia, we lived next door to my grandparents who owned a lot of property. And my grandpa Scripps was the guy. He was the guy, and there was nothing, he could do no wrong. So my grandpa's a very, very important person in my life. Always took us to Sunday school.
Nice.
But growing up, I've always been a Christian.
Really.
Since I was probably 5th grade. And I can thank my Aunt Nina, who, from a Baptist church, showed me how to be saved. And I know I was saved at that point. Have had God in my life. I didn't always do what God wanted me to do, but, we go through phases. God is very forgiving. And I married my first husband in 2000. No, not really. I don't remember at the moment.
That's
And,
okay. Heidi had mentioned there's something called chemo brain.
Oh, yes.
So we're going to give lots of grace for that. So you're doing great.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we got married, and the only thing in my life at that point was wanting to be a mom. That was it. A job's a job. A mom is my forte because I had a great mom. I have a great mom. She's still with us. Thank you, Jesus. And from there, it took us 6 years in order for me to get pregnant with fertility. And I had my beautiful daughter, Hannah Joy.
Who's sitting right over there in the corner. Thanks for being with us.
Oh, I love beyond measure. And we moved back to Hesperia. Well, we had lived in Grand Rapids for a while and then moved back to Hesperia. So Hannah also had her great-grandparents, grand-grandparents.
Oh, wow.
So, you know how fortunate that is nowadays to have your family. I got to kind of think where I'm going here. After having Hannah, I did end up having a daycare center in my home in the middle of nowhere. We live in the middle of nowhere. And I had people driving their kids to my house. I mean, from White Cloud, Hesperia, north of us. So, which was great. And then our little neighbor down the road, who's a year younger than my Hannah, she has become my another daughter. And her name is Hannah Jo.
So you got Hannah
So we
and
have
Hannah
Hannah
Jo.
and Hannah Jo.
Are you okay with
Hannah
that?
Joy and Hannah Jo.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. And so I got to raise really two little girls.
Wow.
Yeah, which, once again, I'm going to say God always puts these people in your path no matter where you go, where you're at. And so we got to live by her uncles, by, my family. Always went to church. I'm going to mention my best friend, Mary Jo, who is one of my spiritual leaders, we've been best friends since kindergarten.
You're kidding me.
No. And when we had moved to Hesperia, we had a station wagon take us home, not school buses, a station wagon that we rode in the back.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know where to go, so Mary Jo told me to get in the car and go with her. And we were neighbors, and we lived next door to each other, a mile away. That was our closest neighbor. Yeah.
So you got to her house, but you still had a mile walk?
Yeah. Well, they drove us home.
Okay.
But anyway, it's just, once again, those little God things, the webs. Oh, my gosh. But, yeah, her and I have been through thick and thin together. And once again, they're part of my family. Her family, her mom was like a second mom to me. My mom was the second mom to her. So where am I going now?
Well, you mentioned that you've been married, you have a kid, and your vocation right now is you are being a full-time mom with the daycare center.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So I did get to that. I wanted to mention that's how Hannah Jo and Hannah Joy are now best friends since they were younger than kindergarten.
Following her mom's footsteps.
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of parallels. So from there, the family, I'm so grateful for my family. How many people get to do that? There's so many broken homes. There's so many different things, but my grandparents were big in my life, and I'm so grateful for that. So
So how did you get up here?
Okay. John had a sermon one time that we had to write you letters
Uh-oh.
of how you got up here.
I got a lot of letters that time. So you have to refresh me.
Right. But you read my letter.
Yeah, I did.
And
In the sermon.
In the sermon, yeah. And it was, my life was in shambles at that point. I was getting divorced, or I had been divorced. And my car was breaking down. And I was living with my mom and dad. And we split time between her dad and me.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to see her. So I did finally meet my husband, Jim, who lives up here in Buckley, Michigan. What's in Buckley, Michigan? So when my car was falling apart, I finally lost it. And I'm like, Lord, I need something. I need a car. I need to work. I need to do things. And I got a flyer in the mail about trading in your old car in the same model or whatever. And I'm like, so my brother took me down and we got a new car. And then I was able to move up here. Jim and I met online on Christian Mingle.
Nice.
So that's kind of how we met, how I got up here. Connie Kreiser is my sister-in-law.
Oh, yeah. We know Connie.
We know
She
Connie.
runs a cafe.
She is awesome. And so we were like, well, we need to start going to church. And I got to this church. I've been in church all my life, small, Presbyterian, Methodist, Baptist, all the small churches in the small towns. And I was so shocked. I was so enthralled that these people were here, all these people at this church. And I just couldn't believe how much I was fed. I had given a lot. I was a Sunday school teacher for many years. I served, but I needed to be fed. And this church fed me. And learning that you just can't go and hope that somebody asks you to do something. You kind of have to dive in, make it your decision to do that. And so many dominoes in my life, and dominoes is a big word for us. And I just kept getting put into different places, from the delivering meals with Jill, and the children's ministry with Joanna Lashbert.
Joanna Lashbrook. Yeah.
Going to the first women's retreat I went to, and Heidi was there. And of course, Heidi was one of the first people that I got to meet here.
Yeah.
What wouldn't you like?
Exactly.
Exactly. So I think
I remember that retreat, because wasn't those the retreats? No, I've never, I don't think I've ever been to women's retreat, just to keep my man card here. But there was some pretty epic, they're all epic, but I remember that may or may not have been the one where they had a disco or some kind of disco night or something. I'm not exactly sure what it was. But
I think that was pre-disco.
That was pre-disco night?
That's what happens at women's retreat.
It stays at women's retreat.
Yeah.
Well, whatever it was.
But we do know how to party.
Whatever. That's what it was. Because
the
Darcy.
conga line.
That's what. There you
the
go.
Conga
the conga line. Because Darcy was talking about you and the conga line. And I see you on Sunday. Yeah. And I didn't see any of that.
Right.
But so she may have broken the
And
rules.
that was during worship.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't the after party.
Yeah.
That was during worship.
Yeah, Hannah, we're not that way on Sunday. Just want to
She's
clarify.
been here. She's been here plenty of times. She knows.
She came to the last women's
So
retreat.
you're just diving right in. Yeah.
And I was working at Lake County clerk office in Baldwin. So I was driving back and forth to Baldwin every day. Then I was there about 8 years. I've been at the Tabernacle over 11 years.
That's right. All the way back to T1.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. And I finally, a position came open at the Wexford County Clerk's office, and I moved up there, which is only a half-hour drive instead of the hour drive to Baldwin every day. So, and that's part of the webs that Jesus gives me. If I wouldn't have worked there, I didn't know that I got a pension. I didn't know I got a pension from Lake County. I didn't know I was going to get a pension at Wexford County. Well, that was something that I've had to have, and I would have never, ever been able to figure that one out. So from Wexford County, I worked in elections, and one day I made a mistake. Well, I've made lots of mistakes, but I'm one that you learn from your mistake, you keep going. But I ended up getting fired. I've never been fired. And I called my mom. She goes, "Praise Jesus." She says, "Something better is going to come along." Because I want to work with kids.
You want to work with elections.
I don't want to work with elections. And my boss to this day, her and I are friends. And I understood, and I knew it was a God thing. So when I got fired, I went to look for jobs. Like I said, I'd never been fired in my life. So it was like, oh, now what? And a bus driver aide position came open. And I'm like, that sounds wonderful. So I came up to Traverse City to the schools, had my interview, and I was hired.
Wait. Sorry. I'm going to interrupt here.
Yep.
You just said a school bus driver aide position.
Yes.
And you said that sounds wonderful?
Yeah, that's what I was
Because you made a, like, I've been on a lot of school buses as a coach. I didn't even like being on there as a coach.
Exactly.
It's why I have a pillow right here behind my back. I'm pretty sure those seats, those little upright safety seats,
Yes.
They're not good
Yes.
driving all the way to Leland and to Muskegon and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But that appealed to you?
Yeah.
Was it the kids, or was it because, you didn't have a school bus. You were in a school station wagon.
No.
Church.
Yeah. We, no, it appealed to me because it was with working with kids. I'd worked in a school down in Hesperia also.
Okay.
So, I know I like kids. So,
yeah.
So, yeah, being on a school bus in a petri dish of snot and drool and
tears.
Yeah. Cry. Yeah. So, anyway, from there it went. I also work at West Middle School with about 1,100 kids. And that blew my mind because I always worked, with little tiny schools. So that's kind of how I got there. And I've been there for about 6 years, maybe.
So what does a school bus aide do?
I
put out fires?
Put out fires while my bus driver, Casey, she can drive and I have to take her eyes off of the road, and so I can go back and fix stuff.
Now, Heidi, when we were talking upstairs before the podcast, we were talking about a certain kid. We don't have to talk about that kid. But you said something about Gail that I didn't know, that she's attracted to a certain kind of kid, which is, what does she call them?
The naughty kids.
The naughty kids.
The kids that are acting a certain way because of a certain reason inside, but it looks bad on the outside.
Correct.
What is that in you that's attracted to the naughty kid?
This is, once again, something my mom and I have always had. I've always loved working with the teenagers, or no, middle schoolers, sorry.
Right.
Which is even crazier than a bus drive, being on a bus route with little kids. So I got to take a drink.
But there's something about naughty kids that are attractive to you.
Because they're just being naughty. There's really no reason. They're just naughty. They're not disrespectful. The disrespectful kids, I have a hard time with that. But the naughty ones, you can have some impact on them.
Mm-hmm. And you do.
I do.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. And just the other day, we had a parade at the West Middle School. For me, they all wore their Lions gear because I'm a big Lions fan.
Apparently, you're a massive Lions fan.
I
Because
really-
I was stalking, and they did this parade to show their love and support of you.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And they're all in Lions gear. Where did the love for the Lions start? Is that just because you're a Michigan girl?
I've always loved the Lions. I was the faithful follower.
Mm-hmm.
Even in the bad years.
Even in the bad years.
And now you get to see the good years.
Yeah.
They're tearing it up.
Yep.
Second year in a row.
Yep.
Okay. So you asked them to wear the Lion, or they just knew that you're the big Lions fan?
The school set it up for a support win Gail.
Aw.
Or Gail wins force. That was their saying. Gail wind force.
Nice.
So.
Oh, I got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Little pun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was special.
That was so special.
So did you get to be there?
Yeah. It was exhausting, but I got to be there, and
Nice.
Hannah got to be there, and my mom came up.
Nice.
So it was just a great time. Exhausting, but
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
because I get tired fast.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What is some of the feedback from those kids that, like you had shared, that that there was a letter from a naughty kid?
Yeah.
Do you care to share that?
Yes,
with us?
I
Yeah.
really would. This is on my elementary bus route, so I'm the aide, and he was quite naughty, but there's just something about him, I can see into them. And he would ride the bus, he would get on the bus crying, he'd throw his backpack, that type of thing, and then just sit in the seat and cry. And I just would sit with him.
Mm.
And he dropped a letter in my lap as he's going by the parade and gave me a hug. And I have the letter. If do you care if I read it?
Please, yeah.
It says, "Hi, Mrs. Gail. Thank you. I'm Gray. You know me from the bus last year. I'm sorry for when I yelled at you. I would also like to say thank you for all the," it's hard to read, so
That's all right.
all the times last year I came on the bus crying. And I remember on one day in particular that you asked if I was okay, and I said yes, but you still came over to help me feel better. You gave me a hug, and you made my day. You did that for so many kids. You are a great person. And do not forget that, do not forget that, you do not forget that much. And you're strong. I remember when you had to take something to help with your cancer medicine. It made your hair fall off and you shaved your hair. But I still asked if you were okay. And you confidently said yes. I was so impressed by that. I am confident when I say without you, I wouldn't be as compassionate as I am. You, I wouldn't, I am your friend. You shine bright. You make everybody around you happy, and you bring joy to them. Thank you, Miss Gail. You're the best, from Gray.
Talk about being a domino.
Dominoes.
That was a sixth grader?
That was sixth grader.
Sixth grader.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Wow.
If I have that impact on one kid, I mean, what does Jesus do?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a bazillion times more than that. But this isn't the only one I've gotten before. Yeah. It's kind of out of the blue, and then you say, I did do something right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and it's not just kids you have that effect on.
Oh, thank you.
It's adults. It's when a Sunday, when people come in, nobody would know the struggles you're having because you're just so happy to be there.
Yeah.
So happy to love on the people coming in. You're at the hub giving hugs.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's another excuse me. Another thing is I have a lot of faith, and that's through God.
Mm-hmm.
He gave me that gift, and I am very service oriented. A long time ago, our family was at a family camp and took this little test. What are your strengths?
Yeah, like a gift test or something. Yeah.
Yes. And of course, mine came out faith and service. My dad's was service, and my mom's was faith.
That's so interesting that you not only identified those, but that's also, I mean, the service part I've always seen. Like you're always serving. I've seen you serve in the lobby. I knew about the children's ministry and prior to that, but as an usher, and even with cancer, I've seen you as an usher, and to the point where we would get updates like we do in our staff meeting, and our staff prays for all of the prayer requests, and it would be Gail, and it's like, wait, what? Chemo? She was I just saw her this past weekend.
Yeah.
And so it's not just the service piece. Faith, we're all called to have faith.
Yeah.
None of us can be saved without faith. It's by grace we're saved through faith. It's a gift of God, not by works, so that none of us can boast. But there's a spiritual gift of faith that takes it a little bit deeper. Yeah, go ahead.
Something funny, because our last name is Heaven. My brother thinks that's a free pass.
Oh, does he? That was your maiden name, was Heaven.
That was my maiden name.
Yeah.
So,
and you said when you married and became king, you wanted to keep Heaven as part of it.
Right.
So you changed that to your middle name. Yeah. So that's why we said Gail Heaven King.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
But to the faith part, like I think sometimes in the church that people mistake that yes, we're all called to have faith, but it's also a spiritual gift.
Yeah.
And your gift is shining. It's shining through to everyone who talks to you, because do you get the feeling sometimes that people expect you to be one way in regards to the prognosis, one way in regards to, hey, you don't know if you've got days, weeks, months, what it is. Who knows? It could be years.
Right.
But then are they surprised when, like, is that common, or is that just me and Heidi that are surprised when Gail, and me, Heidi, and Darcy that are surprised when it's like, oh, I'm good. I have faith.
What I want to show is that, I'm facing death. We all face death. But, and I don't want them to feel sorry for me, because I'm going to heaven. I'm going to see my grandpa, Jesus first, of course, but I get to go see and meet all these people that have passed, and all the people that are asking me to give their family loved ones hugs, who I can't wait to meet and, hug them also. Who wants to stay on this earth that is so wicked right now? And I'm just like streets of gold. Hannah and I were talking last night. I'm not going to be there for her first house and help her decorate, which is one of my loves in life, is to decorate. And I'm thinking, but yet I get to go up there and help with the mansion. I can tell them exactly how I want it. I can tell them I'm a little control freak sometimes. So, but
I've never heard that said in regards to heaven, and I love it. I might steal it. Yeah.
You can steal anything.
And you said, who would want to stay on earth? However, nobody would guess that's how you feel, because you live so full of life while you're here.
Exactly.
So it isn't that I'm anxious to get out of here.
Right.
It's that I have a next, even better step.
Oh, I mean, I'm very positive person, so I always look at the half full. Or the glass half full. So
your glass is overflowing. It's not just half full.
Thank you.
So what would you say, what are the things, instead of trying to do this in a linear way, just the first things that pop into your mind, what have you learned about God and about faith that you would want to share with people from your experience? So the big C word, the cancer word, it seems to afflict so many people. I'm not going to tell you what pastor, but there was another pastor. I don't know if he'd just come from visiting you. You probably know who I'm talking about, or if it was a different person. But he just sat down in my office and said, "I'm just so tired of cancer," because he was trying to love and trying to care. So a lot of people potentially listen to the podcast are going to face this, but you're in it, and so not in a macabre way, but you're living your life on display for the rest of us that haven't had, a doctor say, here's cancer, here's the prognosis, here's the limited time. What have you learned about God and about your faith and about yourself that you would want your Tabernacle family to know? They could be little things, they could be big things.
Not to be scared. I'm not scared. A lot of people think, I'm so sorry you're facing this. I'm so sorry. I'm not scared. I'm sad. I have to leave my daughter on an earthly time, but you said one time, a blip on a blip on a blip on a blip of time is nothing, and I'll be with her,
for eternity. Yeah.
My grandkids, I've had to somehow get some Jesus into them, and I might start talking about that part of my family.
Yeah, go for it.
My husband Jim has 2 sons, and he has a daughter. His daughter just lost her mom to brain cancer a month and a half ago. So she's losing her mom. And I promised her mom that I would take care of her any possibly way I can. I said, don't you worry, I'll take care of her. I love her. And then 3 weeks later, she passed away. So now I have my stepdaughter, Allie, and I hate saying stepdaughter because she's my love too. She is facing losing me also. So she's going to lose 2 moms. And Hannah's well aware how I feel about that. And, Hannah's not jealous of any sort, so it's not. But I really wanted to take care of Allison. And that was really hard because now I can't. God's going to. Thank you. She has lots and lots of faith. And I'm so grateful for her. And last night we were going through a bunch of my jewelry, and the 3 of us got to pick who got what. And we just laughed and had so much fun. And this is my joy that God has given me in these last, whatever time limit I have to enjoy this to the fullest. So, and then all my family keeps coming up on the weekends and memories, and we laugh, we cry, learning tears are okay. I was not a crier. I cry a lot, but it's okay. Then Jim's 2 other boys, who have so I have grandchildren from those 2. I won't get to see Allie and Hannah's children or their marriage or anything like that until we're all in heaven, and I'm good. The 2 boys were kind of abandoned from just different things. They live a whole different lifestyle than we do. Nothing that I'd ever seen, and it's addiction, pot. And they still, I've learned my one saying is you love them where they're at. Doesn't matter what they do, what they say. I love them where they're at. And we have all become a very close-knit family. God gave me 5 grandkids and a great-grandson, which is, I got to be a grandma to take after how my grandpa and grandma took care of us. But they don't know Jesus. they may know him now because I
You
I
introduced
talk
them.
about him a
Yeah.
lot, and that's one of the hard things to lose is being that domino in their lives. My
Yeah.
the grandkids.
Do you think it takes a certain amount of, in the difficulty, does it take a certain amount of faith to
Oh,
say,
yeah,
because like, hey, I made promises,
yeah.
but God, I can't even be the mom to my stepdaughter, and I'm not going to see these things. But do you think that's where that
Oh,
spiritual gift of faith kicks
Yes,
in? Where,
because I know I ask everybody like at school or who knows the kids, take care of my babies. Take care of my babies when I'm not here. Because, but there's a domino. There'll be dominoes, and God weaves that web of love. And how did we get to this point of having grandparents or being a grandma? Because Jim was estranged from his two sons for a long time, and one of the kids' mom, who is into addiction big time, has abandoned the kids. And she comes in and just messes with the kids' minds. I mean, I see it and it's hard, but that's where you have to have that faith and trust that there's going to be somebody to take my place. Maybe not my place, but carry it on. And they all say they'll take care of those kids.
But that's even back to what we were saying about you going through this. It's like the Lord has put you on display because you're well known in our church. You're well known in the women's ministry. And now you've become even more well known, not because you're on the podcast, but even on the podcast. There's people that listen to the podcast that don't go to our church. But God's put you on display for a reason. And the way you're handling what we call the problem of evil, the fact that people die and get cancer and go through this. And, you know, someone had said to me, even the last bout of chemo, you're like, I wish I wouldn't even have done that.
Oh,
you know, it's
amen.
like,
That made me
right?
real sick.
So even using evil to fight evil,
Yes.
you know, but the way that you're approaching it and the way your faith and trust remains in Christ, even that's going to have a lasting effect. You know, with all of our kids, my wife and I have always tried to remind ourselves that we're playing the long game. We're playing the long game with kids, and so even the differences between, you know, you said the mom coming back and maybe messing with their minds, but they're going to remember Grandma Gail, and how she faced this, and even if they don't get it right now, at least in my mind, that's how I'm
and
thinking.
God gave me some of the naughtiest grandkids you've ever seen. I am not kidding you.
Lucky you, right? Because you love to love the naughty ones.
Exactly.
But loving the naughty ones, and even what you said, loving them where they're at.
Yes.
I the moment you said that, I'm thinking, isn't that just like Jesus, loving people where they're at?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and even your challenge to those of us that are going to have to wait to go to glory while you're already there, you're saying, continue my legacy.
Yes.
Care for my
Yes.
babies, which means then these people that know you at church that watch, or at school, that watch that parade of 1,100 middle schoolers, happy to see you.
Yeah.
All of a sudden the bar from show up at work got raised to care for these babies.
Yeah.
That there's a charge in that Moses gave to Joshua and the people, and Joshua gave to the people. And whether they do it because of Jesus or not, you raise the bar, and that domino keeps giving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you said you have sayings, and one of them is love them where they're at.
Love them where they're at.
Can you think of more sayings? More things that you've learned, you've put into practice? Yeah.
Oh.
Or just the sayings. It doesn't matter.
And the sayings, I'm a grateful member of Al-Anon also, and have been for close, probably 20 years now. But the sayings in Al-Anon, that has saved my life at times. But help me think with a saying. Love God. No.
The Serenity Prayer.
the Serenity Prayer, but just some of the sayings that we say.
You're always better at the slogans
I know.
than I am.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Let God let go.
Let go and
Or
let God.
let go and let God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But love them where they're at. I have to, the judging part, you have to throw that judging part. You can think it in your mind, but it's not supposed to come out your mouth.
Mhm.
Well, you
And
said that before
that's-
the podcast started that you
Yeah.
it isn't like this isn't fake. You do have the
Oh,
thoughts,
yeah.
Mhm.
but
Oh,
somehow
yeah.
you've got a better I think you have a
Control.
better filter than I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it just
And I don't push a Bible. I don't push church.
Mhm.
I will tell them about it. I will tell them about my strength and hope,
yeah.
in God and in Jesus. I try to just have a lot of fun with the kids. I have brought the kids to Sunday school, so they have at least the seed,
Mhm.
and then praying for that next domino to come.
Yeah.
The next domino, and then I will see them in heaven.
Wow.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's that long game.
And
Yeah.
the beauty is that your joy makes church attractive.
Right.
The judgment
Right.
doesn't help.
I don't like people shoving Jesus and church and Bible down my throat.
Mhm.
Who does?
Mhm.
Anything.
Who does?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
So-
like someone trying to convince you to be a Packers fan.
Oh,
Mhm.
John.
We don't want anything shoved down our throat.
Right.
But when you see how attractive something is,
Right.
that's way more powerful.
Very,
Is
very
what-
much
Is
so.
what I'm thinking. Yeah.
And even with the two older boys, they now, I think, really, really appreciate me. I think they love me. It took a long time. It's not something that happens overnight. But yeah, it's just been amazing, and then God let me put some seeds. Sow the seeds where you can, in that web that He weaves. None of us can even come close to understanding how many webs there are putting us together.
Mhm.
You said something else before the podcast, and if you don't mind digging into it, if you don't
No.
want to, that's fine. But you said one of the joys that you have right now, because nothing's guaranteed,
No.
but one of the joys you have right now is, and you said it in that Gail way, I get to plan my funeral.
Oh,
it's like,
yes.
what can possibly be exciting about that? So you're teaching us.
Mhm.
Yeah. What are you excited about that for?
Well,
Or why?
oh man. Because I'm a control freak. I love to plan parties. I plan my whole dad's funeral. And this is in the middle of the night when my brain won't shut off. I mean, not just recently,
Right.
but planning Hannah's graduation party, planning funerals, planning parties, just because I love people.
Mhm.
I want people to be around. And, oh my gosh.
That you would equate your funeral with
to
a party
big time.
is and
Celebration.
You're not making that up.
Oh, no.
That's your heart.
No. And I know there'll be tears. I get to pick the music. I even got to talk to Victoria about it. I was like, oh my gosh. My favorite songs, my favorite people would all be there. I said, I could have up to 300 people there.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, from my work family, my bus garage family, my friends and family, my church, my
Mm-hmm.
everything, my churches in the past, my cousins, my,
Mm-hmm.
We're going to need
it's
a bigger
just-
church.
yeah.
We're going to need a bigger church. We might have to
Yep.
go to TC
You can
West
do a
Junior
Gail.
High.
You can do a Gail wing.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah. We'll name it for Gail.
So
Yeah.
you
I'm teasing.
had said that to somebody when we were visiting up at the hospital, I will do anything to get you in church.
Yes.
Finish that story.
I want one of the opening lines to be, Gail has wanted to get you here for this long, and this is the way she did it. But I can't come up with the funny saying about it because I want it to be funny.
Any lengths
That's
to
pretty
get you in
funny.
church, including dying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And now you're here.
But, I just want them to know I'm okay. I am so okay.
Mm-hmm.
When they're not okay. They're not going to be okay when I pass.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be sad. I'm not.
Mm.
I'm not going to be sad at all.
Mm-hmm.
Did Tim write that down?
I did.
Oh, you did. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Will you say it again?
That you would go to any lengths to get
Yep.
these
Someone
people you care about
Yes.
into church,
Yes.
including dying.
Yep.
You said, I
Into
want you to
our
say that.
church because it's so special.
Yeah.
So special.
So you've planned the funeral. You're excited about that. What else are you excited about right now? Because you exude excitement.
Yeah.
You don't exude cancer.
No. Cancer's yuck. Cancer's yeah. I get this time that I know I have this much time to love all these people and these people to love on me while I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
My family's been coming up every weekend, and the joy that we have, the food. I can't hardly eat anything anymore, but it's like, well, what do you want us to bring up this time? What do you want us to bring up that time? And I have two wonderful sister-in-laws, Diane and Tricia, and who are like two of the biggest, yummiest cooks. Their love language is cooking.
Mm-hmm.
Praise God.
And I know,
Yeah,
because I
yeah.
don't like to do that. And so we just enjoy each other. There's no fighting. There's no bickering. There's no, oh, no, I didn't do this or I didn't do that. And
Is it a focusing on what's most important?
yes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Yeah.
almost like, when I ask you, well, like, what are you looking forward to right now? It's on what's most important. But I think you also said that you're really enjoying the little things.
Oh, I can see the little things God does. Boom, 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 boom. So I can recognize them. And that's part of a gift too, the recognizing the good stuff.
Mm-hmm. So it occurs to me that there's a real intimacy in agreeing to walk with you through the end of life.
Yeah.
What's that journey like for you and the people who love you?
The journey. I just hope that they understand death's not scary or,
Or it doesn't have to be.
yeah, it doesn't have to be.
Mm-hmm.
And these people that don't know Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they get through a day, first of all, let alone any kind of heartbreak, any kind of tragedy. And we've had tragedies in our lives, which I'm going to bring up about my sister.
Go for it.
Go
Yeah.
for it.
My sister Joy, she is 16 years younger than I am. It was, that oops, but it was one of the most wonderful oops in the world. And she is now in prison for 25 years for murder, is what the conviction was. The true story, God knows the whole true story. I totally believe her. I totally, and I will start to tell you about it. She was in Florida, lived in Florida, and she decided she wanted to do foster care. So she went and got her foster care license in Florida and all the paperwork, and then she ended up moving back to Grand Rapids, where then she got into the foster system, had two twin autistic girls who were 5, and they were the joy of our lives, our family's lives. The joy. Her name's Joy. And she, we only had them for about, because it's my whole family.
Yeah. Yeah.
My brothers, everybody, my dad just loved these little girls. And one day they had lots of medical problems. And one day she had come home. She was carrying one of the twins, which were like 45 pounds, through a gate into her kitchen. Well, the other little girl was following, and she kind of pushed her back so that she could get through the kitchen. And the little girl fell and hit her head.
Mm.
And that night she passed away, the little girl. It was my whole family was there. My great big brothers, all of us just bawling, it was horrific. Well, it was a couple days later, and she had to go and talk to the police and everything, and they arrested her for murder. At that point, then she was sentenced for 25 years, which none of us could believe. And my family, was pretty devastated at that point. But I could still see God through every single step. Every little step that happened, God was there. Now, she's been in prison for about 12, 13 years now. Calls my mom every day. She calls me every day now because she won't be able to go to a funeral. But she is joyful. She runs.
Even in prison.
Oh, even in prison. Every time she calls, she's happy. She's had to go through some, big mental
Absolutely.
deal with mental things. But she's now in charge of grief groups.
Wow.
She sits with them on Suicide Watch. And she says that a lot of times she will have that person laughing before they're done. She has a family in prison, her family that take care of her. She takes care of a lot of them because she's there. She's amazing. It's God. I mean, it's the only thing that we can say is God, but we pray that she can get out before my mom passes. And I've always said, somehow, God, you're going to get her out of there. I don't care if the prison walls fall down, So that's one of our big stories. But our whole family made it through it, my mom and dad.
Yeah.
And how you can be joyful in jail. Well,
Right.
How many
Right.
in the Bible, and
Right.
maybe they're not joyful, but
Oh, yeah.
they do it.
Yeah,
They do it.
Paul and Silas singing in prison.
Yeah.
But it seems like this theme isn't just like you didn't suddenly get this faith when you got cancer.
Right.
This has been like the theme of your life.
Yeah.
That somehow God's got this, and
Every step of the way. This is one of my sayings. God will work out the details. Because even when I'm planning the parties and stuff.
I was just going to ask, you're the control freak, but
right,
you're okay with him getting the details?
Because there's some details I can't get, but he gets them. He works it out perfect. But just every step of the way, he was always there with us. And I'm just so grateful for that. And for her joy.
That's a word that you've used a lot, and I didn't expect that word. You've either said gratitude or grateful. Is that something that's always been there? I know that in recovery groups, that's a big, that's a pillar, is learning to be grateful. Was that instilled in you there, or is that just part of the faith piece?
I think it's part of the faith.
Yeah.
But it's grown. It's grown so much. And I think when you do get faced with some time, you can be mad and sad and grumpy and whatever, but who wants to be that way?
A lot of church people do. Maybe we can start a little ministry in the time we've got that's just like send grumpy people to Gail.
To Gail.
Yeah.
Grumpy, naughty people.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
What would you say to the grumpy person that just can't see any of the good that's going on?
That's the hard one, because they haven't had it. that's their choice, I guess, is all excuse me, their choice.
Mhm.
I don't know.
So for you,
I always try
gratitude's
to
a choice?
say, see the, see the little things, and just thank you, Jesus. Quick, thank you, Jesus.
Mhm. And are there some people in your life that you live with that have a hard time seeing the good things and the little things?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That is for sure. But that's part of my journey of Al-Anon, is knowing how to take care of myself
Mm.
and not let the ick come through and that type of stuff.
Right.
To what extent would you say community has made a difference in your life?
Community, I've always been involved in the community wherever I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
So people,
Mm-hmm.
So
I
did you
love
wait for
people.
people to come find you?
No. There was one person, he was a domino in my life, and this was a long time ago. Excuse me. He was a therapist at a YWCA that I worked at in Grand Rapids. And he would always come downstairs happy with his hand held out to shake it and say, "I'm so-and-so, what's your name?" And I try to make a connection with everybody I meet. "Hi, I'm Gail." And I learned how to do that. It wasn't something just easy, but I learned how to do that. And now I can say, "Hi, I'm Gail. What's your name? Where are you from?" I've got to find out where you're from, so then I can make a connection, and you would not believe the amount of connections that I've made, and go, "Oh, do you know that person? Oh, yeah, do you know that person?" And yeah, It's amazing. So community.
I've seen you do that for us
Yes.
at the church,
Mhm.
where you're meeting somebody that way,
Yeah.
with that great big smile.
Mhm.
But I'm just sitting here, and I'm grateful that you've come to share this story. But I'm also realizing I made a massive mistake, right?
Uh-oh.
And the mistake was, I knew last night that we were going to do this podcast, and so I was doing a little prep, and I was just talking with Darcy, and she was like, "Oh, this is going to be heavy," and I said, "Oh, I know it's going to be heavy," and then I set this box right here, right after you and I both cleaned our glasses, and then it's like, well, this is going to be heavy, and
No.
you don't. I thought it was going to be a bawling baby.
Mhm. And we didn't.
But I'm encouraged.
That's exactly.
I'm encouraged.
That's what
You
God
make me
wants
believe
me
it.
to
Yeah.
tell people, to be encouraged. Yeah.
I'm sure we'll need these later.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But you're just amazing to me.
I won't, though, because I'm going to be in heaven with Jesus, and we're going to be doing stuff.
We'll bring these to your exit interview.
Exactly.
So is there anything else that
Oh,
you
my
would want to
goodness.
say? You just want to go on record and say to anybody, besides you'll go to any lengths, including dying, to get them to come to your church.
Yes.
But whether they're people in the church, people outside of the church, just things that you can think of that, man, if I have a microphone, this is something I wanted to say.
It is interesting. The people in my life, there are people in my life that don't have Jesus. And I know it's down deep inside of them, but they've been hurt so bad by the church that they won't even come into a church. And to understand that it's not always that way. There's different ways. It's my bus driver, and she'll understand this, because we tease a lot about it. I'll text her on a Sunday morning and say, "Oh, I've got a seat saved for you," and then she'll text me something funny back, and
Right.
I try to make things funny.
Mm-hmm.
Humor has a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
When I first was diagnosed, and Hannah came up to see me, I didn't want it to be sad. So I said, "We're going to have fun." We played games. But I also would be like, "Would you go get me this? Would you go get me that?" I'm using my cancer card.
Yeah. My little brother did that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
Using
did
the
that
cancer
all
card.
the time.
Mhm.
Yeah, he was a worship leader at this church. I think he might have been here. I think he was gone before you came.
He was. Yeah.
But we'd be stopping somewhere for lunch, just lunch.
Yeah.
And I would say, hey, let's hit a drive-through. And he would say, I was thinking about, the Texas Roadhouse.
Yeah.
And I'd
exactly.
be like, man, dude, what? And he goes, oh, I forgot, you don't have cancer.
Right.
And then we're going to the Texas Roadhouse, and I'm paying
I
for
love
this.
it.
So
Love
you play that card too?
I play the card.
Okay, all right. Well, you've earned the right.
And the Jesus card.
Yeah.
And the
Yes.
Jesus card.
Yep.
Play the hand you're dealt.
Yep.
Yeah, play the hand you're dealt. Heidi, you got anything else? There's stuff. I know you guys are super tight. Or is it not for the podcast?
Well, you're leaving behind big shoes to fill,
Oh,
and you've paved the way for the shoes to fill them.
thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
And that's the hard part, leaving everybody else behind.
Mhm.
Yeah. But it's only for a little while.
Oh, I know. I know.
If the Bible is true, and we believe it is,
Yes.
there's a promise for those who love him, and it's eternity.
Yep.
And you said before, it's evident how much you love God,
Mm-hmm.
but you talked about loving people.
Mhm.
And the way you've lived as a domino is a part of making disciples. And so I'm not trying to make this about the Tabernacle,
Mhm.
but you are the poster
Mhm.
child. If our vision is change lives,
Mhm.
we've seen you what your changed life, but
Yeah.
you're also changing lives.
Yeah.
A sixth grade boys don't write that
No.
on their own
No.
and say the things that he said. And it wasn't clean. That's why you struggled to get through the
Yeah,
letter,
yeah.
right?
Mhm.
I don't envision someone over his shoulder telling him
No.
what to write.
No.
And so that's what our vision is. Our mission is to love God, which is evident in you, and how
Mhm.
much you love people.
Mhm.
And this whole make disciples, you've 100% lived it as a domino. You're full of grace. I'm humbled to sit across from you, and I thank you.
Oh,
You were very articulate. You were worried about the chemo brain.
yeah.
You were very articulate.
Good.
And, I know this is probably wearing you out, but thanks for spending some of your energy
Mhm.
and your time
Yes.
with us and sharing it with our podcast family.
Oh.
And Hannah, thanks for sitting in the corner. And you needed a tissue at one part. But
Yep.
so podcast family, Tabernacle family, we hope that you're encouraged. We have, as Heidi said, very big shoes to fill. And thank you for showing us not just the way, you're pointing the way
Mhm.
to heaven, but you're pointing the way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And I don't know if I could. I want to.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And so now, you use the term, Heidi, that you're raising the bar. It isn't just raising the bar at school. You're raising the bar when facing the end.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And so, wow, what a gift that
I
is
know.
for us.
I know. And I want to be humble about it because it's not, I feel like I talk about myself
No.
and bragging, and it's not, and I don't ever want to be that person either.
Mhm.
I don't think that came through at
Yeah.
all.
Good.
You brag about Jesus.
Yeah.
And your kids a lot,
Yeah.
Right.
which is okay because I have grandkids too.
Yeah.
So do you. So.
Yep.
Mhm.
So, Tab family, if you'll like it, you'll share it.
Yes.
Share it with somebody who needs to hear it. Share it with someone who knows Gail, and or even someone that doesn't.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
maybe it'll get all the way to TC West
Yeah.
because we know they need Jesus.
Yes.
Because they're not going to have you boots on the ground. so-
Right. Right.
Or an aide on the bus.
Yeah.
If there's a bus to heaven, will you be an aide on the bus? There'll be.
Oh,
there-
they won't be naughty, so I
Well-
won't need to be there.
Excellent point. Excellent point. Well, we love you.
Oh, I love you
And,
guys
yeah.
so much.
Mhm.
I love it's the love has just been pouring out of me. So
Mhm.
that's
Well, I hope you feel it back.
yeah. And
Yeah.
there's also miracles.
Mhm.
I don't have any doubts about miracles, but at this point, I'm ready. I'm so ready.
Mhm.
So ready to be there.
It's inspiring.
Thank you for having me. Oh,
No, well, thank you.
there's a check off my bucket list.
Check off the bucket list. Next one's go to a Lions game.
Yeah.
Come on, make it happen. We got to make it
Yeah.
happen. All right. Until next time, this is Heidi Burgess, Gail Heaven King,
Yep.
her daughter Hannah sitting in the corner, our producer today, Matthew Otto, and me, John Vermilia. We're signing off.